Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing edition of Let's Talk, the Business Spotlight Edition. So today we have the beautiful Suzanne Murphy here today, and we're going to be talking about voice coaching. I need it, obviously. Voice coaching. So we'll be talking about that. We're gonna go into some more details. Why it's important? Why should we do it? It's for everyone and anyone who wants to project their voice. So I will come back, and like I always say, are you ready? Let's talk. We're back. So I would like to once again welcome Susan. Susan, welcome to Let's Talk 1943, and we are so happy to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. I love what you stand for in this show. It's about stepping into who you are as you are, the child of God, the spiritual being, the whole, you gotta come forward. I love it.
Thank you so much. You know what? We're here to empower, uplift, and motivate. That's our job here at Let's Talk 1943. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah.
Yay. So I'm very interested in this because I'm in this field. And I know this could be for everyone though, because anything you do and talk, you have to project and show who you are. And you just kind of said that in your nice introduction. So let's talk about this. Let's introduce yourself. What do you do? And we'll go from there.
What I do is I coach anchors and reporters at TV stations around the country. I also do meteorologists. And it was a job that I started a company that I started about a year and a half ago. I'd been in the broadcast industry for more than 40 years.
Wow.
In television and radio, I was a producer. I did in front of the camera and behind the camera. I'm a voice actor. I taught at 2 different universities in New York. I've since moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I got it into my head watching TV about 2 years ago, flipping channels in watching newscasts, that I would see young reporters and anchors who looked great, they could shoot a good story, their writing was okay, but their voices just didn't match with what I was looking at. And I'm very in tune to that. And there are times, I tell you, that I will turn the channel if I don't enjoy listening to your voice, or if it's just not authentic, or if it's not appropriate. And so I decided to hang out a shingle. And I ran the idea past a news director friend, and he said, yeah, I think this could fly. He sent me 2 of his reporters. I worked with them. He did not pay me, but wrote me a recommendation. I kind of got around on LinkedIn, and now I'm happy to say that the company is thriving and I'm branching out. I've worked with ministers and nurses and financial analysts, and I'm working with a nurse who is preparing a program to help women who have a disordered relationship with food, and it's something that she wants to present, and I'm helping her with that. So I've really kind of stepped into my own in starting this company, and I love every single second of it.
See, that's where you went into your purpose, because you had your little tool belt and you was able to put all these things you learned in the last 40 years to get you to the point you have right now. And now you're actually you created this, like you made a table and brought the table, the chair, and the place setting, right?
And I'm happy to have anybody come sit with me. And that's really what I'm trying to get across, is what I've learned in teaching anchors and reporters, is that really everybody can use a little help, a little push, a little reframing of how they use their voice. Because a lot of people don't use an authentic voice. And I think that puts off a bad vibe. It certainly for a reporter and an anchor, it does. But I
Mhm.
think in relationships with our loved ones, our colleagues, our
Mhm.
bosses,
Mhm.
authenticity is key, and it starts with your voice.
Everything does. Now, I'm thinking because I'm like, wow, she's hitting so much stuff on right. Okay, I can't even describe how I'm feeling right now because it's so important to come out and be who you are. And when
Yeah.
you stand in your truth will project out with your voice. Now, when you don't know who you are, or you're trying to be like someone else, or you see other people do it a certain way, and you feel that the only way you're able to do it is doing it that way, because especially in broadcasting, there's different types of people, and if they're being authentic to themselves, you can't produce that. You can't recreate that. Like that's not possible, and that's why you sound artificial. That's why you
Could you
sound.
come? Could you come teach with me? I think I need you to teach that. Yes, yes. I mean, you have a better way of putting it, perhaps, than I do. Yes, yes. All of that. All of that. If you're not being authentic, it doesn't connect to anybody. It doesn't even connect to you.
It don't connect to you. And okay, for example, I'll just talk about me. So I just decided to stand in my truth a couple of years ago, literally a couple of years ago, and I could tell a difference in me and the way I project and the way I speak now and 3 years ago. It's totally different. I have conviction in my voice. Like I could feel I'm talking and I'm not apologetic and I'm good with what I'm saying. And I'm not looking for you to approve what I'm saying. I'm just saying what I believe. And then I'm okay if you don't believe in it. I'm okay. See, and that's a difference.
So the story for you, the story came first, and the natural, authentic voice came second.
Yeah. My
Okay.
truth came first.
Okay.
Um, because what happened with me, short, little short story, but what happened to me is I was adopted and I didn't really sit in that all right. I wasn't good with it.
Right.
Um, and then when I realized that it was a beautiful thing and and I do matter, and that kind of helped me get to this point that I wanted to talk to other people and hopefully get them to see that they're just good who they are.
Yeah.
And when you're doing this or anything like what you're doing is amazing because you're not just giving voices, you actually giving them who they are. Like you making them find themselves and you're projecting it through the voice coaching. That's amazing.
And what I'm learning, especially with women, and this is the message I literally need to get around the world, is that I'll work with young women, and
Mm,
we do writing, and we talk about how they, I'll use the word behave on the air, so to speak. And
mhm,
I teach them to speak from the bottom of their diaphragms, and I give them a posture, and I give them breath exercises, and I go through and really work hard with them. And some of them don't break through. Some of them can't seem to find what is their natural, normally lower pitch.
mhm,
And I now know mostly what the problem is. And it kind of came to me accidentally the first two or three times. And
mhm,
now I'm kind of trained to recognize it. If
mhm,
I can't get a young woman to really speak from her authentic voice, I'll say, let's stand down for a little bit, and I want to change the topic for right now, if that's okay, Katie. Katie, could you tell me about growing up? Like, do you have brothers and sisters? Okay, twin sisters. Oh, and I bet they took a lot of the spotlight. Yeah, I bet they did. Tell me about your parents. Well, there was a lot of fighting in this house. Okay,
mm,
and what I've learned with every single woman who has that blockage, so to speak, in finding that voice came from a home where she was devalued,
mhm,
misvalued, unvalued, or what she did was she became something else, a little girl, a breathy voice, a tiny person, to overcome a dysfunctional household, to get
mhm,
along with authoritarian teachers or parents.
mhm,
Even later in their lives, some of them have modified their voices to please a romantic partner.
mhm.
and that's not who they are. So I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but what we can do is very gently unpack some of what it was like for them to grow up in a house where they felt small, or where their voices were tiny, or where their voices weren't valued, or where the girlish, breathy voice was rewarded. And some of those girls, that kind of worries me a little bit. But so we work a little bit at a time on it. And even just having that brief conversation with me, a voice coach, although what I've learned is voice is very intimate, it's a reflection of who you are. Some of those girls have come back to me like in their next session, and they'll say, do you know how healing that was? And at first it would make me that I could be so honored in standing with them to bring them forward, not realizing that this is way more common than I thought.
Yes.
I often say that there are two kinds of people who go into broadcasting. Kids who grew up with too much applause, kids who didn't grow up with any. And these are the women who didn't grow up with any applause. And so in working with them, watching them blossom, watching them grow, watching their self-confidence just bloom in front of me, it's slow. And, we talk about the on-camera confidence, and we talk about it spreading into the rest of their lives as well. And how that, yes, wait a minute, you can stand a little taller. You can be a little bolder. You don't, in that morning editorial meeting, don't you go shrink back into that corner. You come forward. You come forward and stand in who you are and the reporter you are and in the work you've done. And let's show it. It's a joy and an honor, a blessing to me to be able to do this.
You just unpacked so much. Can I go back? You're giving them permission to be who they are.
That's exactly right.
You're giving them permission. They already have it. It's already there.
Yes.
You're just a vessel that's helping them to understand that it's okay now. You can speak now.
Regina, you're coming to teach with me. That's just the end of it. Yes. Yes. Exactly right. They've always had it. They've just never used it.
They just didn't use it. So now you're giving them the permission to use it. And as soon as they stand in their purpose and their truth, it's going to fly out like a hummingbird. It's going to come out like with no issues. They're blocking their own. They shooting themselves in their own foot and they sabotaging their own selves, because I've been there. I know. I get it. When you sabotage yourself because you're telling yourself that you're not worthy, and not saying you actually saying those words to yourself, but the things that you do, you're telling yourself you're not worthy, right? So
yes.
being in broadcasting, you made a good point. Either you're the one who always got applause and you just want to be out, that's like, that gives you that fire. Like, I need somebody to tell me how great I am. People pleasers, low self-esteem, all those types. And that's why I'm raising my hand, right? That's where you get it from, because you don't get it at home. You come get it. So that's that type. Then the ones you just said that I'm the ones that's telling you, you could talk now. You okay. You could get it out. So you have like two different spectrums. Like you have two different ones kind of like, but let me ask you about the ones who are the people pleasers, the ones who like the applause in the audience. Are they coming to you as their authentic selves, or are they copying someone else?
Once again, you're coming to teach with me. You're right.
You know what? Don't tell me now, because I'll be in Sean. We'll be doing this together now.
The anchors and reporters I work with, it's usually 80% women, 20% men, sometimes 75-25. It's the men who come to me already thinking that they have it all. They know how they should sound, and sports reporters particularly. That
you can't tell me nothing.
And I like to tell the story when I was a professor in college, and I had a young man who is now a very successful sportscaster in Dallas. And he was in my class, and I'll change his name. Frank knew how great he was. Oh, he would let you know it. just by his being in the room, he let you know it. And when you're teaching a broadcast class, I mean, it's not a multiple choice test. It's very subjective. So I would meet with them individually to discuss their progress.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the end of the semester, called Frank in, we're going to discuss his final grade. And I said, Frank, you know, you showed up, you did all the assignments, but Frank, you phoned in every single one of them. So you know what I'm going to do, Frank? I'm going to give you a B in the class. You know why I'm going to give you the B? Because B is the middle letter in the word humble.
Mm-hmm.
And he just smiled. I got him. He knew it. And he was fine with it. We stayed friends, and he, you know, he's become a very good reporter. And I think he learned a lot from that. So yeah, he was one of those who grew up with way too much applause. And that doesn't come across well either.
You said, I'm giving you a B.
The middle letter of the word humble.
In the middle initial letter,
Yeah.
humble. Let's try to humble yourself, bro. Let's kind of take this down a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not. But it got nothing to do with your ability, because obviously he
Nope.
knew what he was doing. It's just
Yep.
he's coming off as being a certain way, and
Right.
being in broadcasting, like, you know, you'll turn some people off with that, right?
Oh,
It could be
big time.
confidence. It's like a border, it's like a Humpty Dumpty thing. Like, you have to be confident, but you can't be cocky. Like, you got to be right on that like edge, right?
Yes, it's a very fine line, and
Mhm.
bless the people who have learned to walk it well.
Mm-hmm.
Either, and I think those who have come up from the pull the bootstraps kind of beginnings have a much better way of doing that than folks who came from how Frank was brought up. But that's
Mhm.
just
That's how.
my observation. I mean, I like to say I preach the gospel according to Saint Susan, and there is more than one gospel.
Saint Susan.
Mhm.
So let's give the audience some tips, right?
Yes.
So let's give them some tips.
Yes.
So tell me, how can you get tips on, I guess, what's the best way of saying it? Being your authentic self. What is your tips for that?
The very simplest way of my being able to explain it is when you're in front of a group, either seated or standing,
Mhm.
and you're going to speak in front of them. The only thing that I'm going to ask you to do at the beginning is lower your shoulders.
Mhm.
Drop
I'm
your
getting it
shoulders.
right. Okay.
Lower your shoulders. By releasing the tension in your shoulders, hello, where do we carry tension, anxiety, stress? Hello. Mm-hmm. When you release the holding of the muscles across the top of your chest, across the top of your back, what you've done to a great degree is you have also loosened the muscles into your neck and into your jaw and into the mask of your face.
Okay.
So when you combine loose shoulders
Mm-hmm.
and then making sure you are breathing into your belly all the way down into the bottom of your diaphragm, which is a muscle attached to the bottom of your rib cage. That's how far down that goes.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're doing it right when you breathe in and your belly expands like a balloon out against your waistband, and when you exhale, it flattens. If you can combine those two, and you always start speaking on a full belly full of air, don't exhale and then speak. No, you inhale and you begin to speak with the lowered shoulders, and all I'll say to you is speak boldly. Not loudly, boldly. And if you do those three things, combine them, that's in essence the beginning of speaking from your authentic pitch, which is at the bottom of your diaphragm for most people. Men, slightly different because of testosterone and Adam's apple, and they have larger vocal cords than women do. So
Mm-hmm.
they have more of a range. But if you can just, my voice teacher, who was a UCC minister, by the way, as well as a vocal teacher, she used to say, Susan, you know, I believe we live in our gut. Where is your gut? It's in your belly. It's right where your diaphragm is. You know that expression, oh, I had to trust my gut on that. Oh,
Yeah.
well, your gut is kind of in your belly. It's attached to your parasympathetic nervous system. She really thought that your gut can be informed by your brain, can be informed by your heart, but your decision making, where you live, who you are, is in your gut. And that's also where your voice lives. I kind of believe her.
I believe it too, because even voice coaches, vocal voicing, like singing.
Yes,
they
that's what
always tell you your belly come from your belly. You're coming from your nose. You're not coming from your belly. And they say that all the time. So I do believe that. I believe that everything starts in your gut. Like they said, gut health is the most important health.
Yes. And doctors are just figuring out that technically your parasympathetic nervous system is more, well, as important as your regular nervous system because they work in tandem. And the parasympathetic nervous system, which is activated by yogic breathing, which is part of what I teach. When you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, you are calming the chemicals and the hormones that are sent out from the signals from your brain to all those organs that release those chemicals. Parasympathetic nervous system activated by your breath calms that down.
As you talking, I keep realizing that I'm paying tension in my shoulders because I put them down, and then they start going back, and I put them down. So now I notice that I be holding stuff up in these shoulders because I'm
Yes. It's we all do it, but when I learned about the shoulders as being one of the most important body parts in relationship to your breath, I was blown away that it really is your shoulders.
So, the strength in your voice, you said be bold, but you don't have to be loud. But bold, that's what catches the attention of the audience, correct? Is the boldness?
Correct. Coupled with the words you use. Now, let's spend a minute on the words you use.
All right.
And attached to that will be, it's not the opposite of breath, but if you're not breathing, you're pausing. So I'm a big believer for everybody, not just broadcasters, to use the pause effectively. Several reasons. You're the speaker. Okay, if you've paused, that gives your brain half a second to think about what you might go to next.
Right.
And let's say you're having what could become a heated argument with someone you love, or a boss even. If you pause and maybe take half a second to think about what you're going to say, you might stop yourself from saying something you'll regret. So that's how a pause helps the speaker. A pause helps the listener in broadcast and other places, because I need to catch up and digest what you just said. If you're going a mile a minute, running your sentences together, probably at some octave I don't really want to listen to, pitch that I don't want to listen to, A, I disconnect, and B, I can't follow it anyway. A pause allows me to absorb what you said. So by choosing those words, I always advise my broadcasters, short sentences, I'll say. Write it like a fifth grader, deliver it like a college professor. Don't get you wrapped up in big words and long sentences because you think that's going to show you as smarter. No, it's not. Shorter, declarative sentences that are clear, that I'm not going to misunderstand, that have power behind them. You've chosen the words, hopefully, carefully. You're going to watch my eyes to see or I'm going to watch your eyes to see if you're getting it. I'll take a pause to allow you to absorb it, or to maybe have you ask a question. Communication has to go both ways, which I remind even a reporter or an anchor, technically you're having a conversation with the person at home. You just can't tell you are. But I'm here reacting about the horror of whatever story you're leading with, or, oh, what a lovely story that is. So I am reacting. You have to picture that. You have to imagine what my reaction could be so that your tone in telling me that story is going to mirror my reaction. Same way in a discussion with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Careful words, distinctly spoken, hopefully not at a decibel to frighten them. And when you're both going to have maybe a conversation, or you, the parent, are going to deliver a lecture that is well said, short enough for them to not be overwhelmed, that's good communication. That's really good communication.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. When I first thought about voice coaching, I'm thinking more of what you said. You do the broadcasting and all of that. But when you said at your intro how you branched out to these other sectors, that's what I'm understanding now. Everyone needs this. It's not just, don't get me wrong, that's what they do for a living. So, of course, it's going to be more imperative for them to get that down because that's their living. That's their job or their career. But just as a female, like you said, who never had a voice or was told to be silent growing up, just to gain that, it's going to change their lives. Not just their careers, their relationships, friendships, significant others, because a lot of us lose our voices in that, or we are trained to not speak in certain ways or whatever, and then we get that, oh, you think this is cute when I talk like this, and oh, I'm a little daily in distress, and
right.
And that's not cute.
No.
But a lot of people have been trained to do that.
It might be cute in some circumstances. I'm not saying you can't do it, but I am saying to best portray the most authentic you. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you be authentic? Mm-hmm. Stand in that voice that lives in your gut, along with a whole lot of other things. Mm-hmm. We talk about, I got to find my voice. I have to find my voice. So sometimes you need the courage to stand up at a PTA meeting, or to stand up in a boardroom, or if you're I'm working with a woman now in Australia. She's the CFO of a pearl company, which is kind of cool. And she's the only woman in the C-suite level. So she's very conscious of how she sounds and the words she uses, perhaps a little bit too conscious. And this would have been a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. Somebody not on her level actually told her that her voice was shrill. And that just stuck in her brain. Wow. So she called me, found me on LinkedIn, and we're talking, and she's looking for voice help, and I'm listening, and I'm thinking, boy, your voice is a lot of things, but shrill isn't one of them. So, okay, let's unpack that. The person who said you were shrill. You're not shrill, but she made you think you are. And that's not right either.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it can work both ways, depending on what you've been told and when you've been told it. So your voice is your power, and you gotta step into it. You might be batted around a little bit. I got into television very late in the 70s after graduating from college, and I kind of stood on the shoulders of the first wave of television news people, the Barbara Walters or Jim Pauly's of life. Mm-hmm. In the late 1970s, TV stations were rushing to hire women because most of those newsrooms were filled with men. So it was easy kind of to find a job. And I got it. My first job was in West Palm Beach, Florida. And, but I just sort of intuitively knew that I'm in a newsroom with mostly men, except for the woman on staff who was our weather girl.
Oh, yeah.
Ankle boots, short skirts. whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't maybe a conscious effort, but I knew I had to work in the same arena as men. And
Hmm.
so I didn't try to lower my voice, and I can't even explain to you what I did. I was born with a slightly lower voice than many women anyway.
Yeah, me too. I got a deep voice.
So I think I got lucky that way, and I didn't do anything damaging to my voice. Now it's acceptable, of course, for obviously women and men. And in fact, there are more women in newsrooms than there are men now.
Mhm.
But now the pitches of voices have gone way back up. And so those higher pitches aren't your authentic pitch. Let's kind of bring it back down and speak from where we are real. I'm not
Wow.
saying we can't get excited, but let's speak from the right spot.
You know, when you said the 70s, I know we're gonna get ready to close out, but I have to talk about this Mary Tyler Moore show.
Oh
So
gosh.
I'm thinking about it when you were saying that. I'm thinking about the show from the beginning to the end, and you could tell the growth in Mary. When she first came there, she was the timid, quiet, fumbling around, you know, scared to say what she felt or it was a news story. She kind of sat there. But at the end, that last couple of seasons, she was
Right.
going to the office. She was demanding this and talking about that, and and you could tell the difference shift in
Yes.
her in those episodes, right?
Yes.
Because she found her voice.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Mr. Grant. Well, you didn't hear that so much toward the end, except when she was, trying to be endearing. But you're absolutely right about that, and I had never made that correlation. But
Hmm.
stepping into that power and living into what you know, trusting your knowledge, trusting your experience, trusting your training,
Hmm.
trusting your just what you've lived. We
Right.
sometimes don't count our lived experience as to how
Hmm.
what we can bring to a workplace. That's why the big question is, what's professionalism these days? It's a good conversation to be having for another day.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Mhm.
It really is. So let's end on a funny note. So tell me one of your on-air disasters that you could
Oh,
tell me. Just give me something to laugh before we get out of here.
the best on-air disaster was at my first job at the TV station in West Palm Beach, Florida. Now it's 1979. We had nothing fancy. Weather graphics didn't exist back then, really. So, in fact, the national weather map was a board literally in the studio where I took magnetic sunshines and cold fronts and warm fronts. And I kind of became the weekend weather person.
Mhm,
I learned it kind of on the fly, and I would put these magnetic symbols on the board, and I would
mhm,
talk about the national weather.
mhm.
And that board was pushed up kind of above the set, and then there had to be somebody behind the set so that when I said, now let's take a look at the national map, that person would push on a bar, and that would lower the map right behind me.
Okay.
Well, this one weekend, a guy who had never done it before threw all his weight into pushing the bar up. The map came flying down behind me, and all the weather symbols fell off. So instead of saying every curse word that I could possibly think of, the only thing that came out of my mouth was, "Oh, good grief. Thank God." So I had to keep going. So I said, all right, so we don't have the weather symbols in this forecast, but imagine sunshine here in Pennsylvania and showers coming through Florida. And I kind of made it up as I was going along. But as I'm going along and I realize how funny the whole thing was, I'm starting to lose it. Starting to lose it. And fortunately, in that weather forecast, I then would say, now let's take a look at temperatures around the country. And then it would go to a piece of tape that showed the
Right.
temperatures around. Now let's go to, now let's take a look at temperatures around the country. Fine, they start the tape. And I fall to the floor, hysterical. The mics open onto the floor. The entire control room is laughing, except for the poor person who threw up that bar. He doesn't
Like I
fall.
still have a job.
Yeah, he didn't last long at that station. Um, and okay, but I wasn't done yet. So I had like a 60 seconds, pull it together, get rid of the laughing tears, finish the weather forecast, blah, blah, blah. Off I walk into the newsroom. The hotline is ringing. That can only be one person, general manager. I go to pick it up, and all I hear is laughing. So that was quite when the weather symbols all fell off, and we all got hysterical.
But that's okay though. But that's okay. And the funny part is you went ahead and did, you may be in a blooper somewhere, you know that, right? Because they have those
Yes.
weather
In
ones.
fact, I was told that the National Press Club every year would do a blooper reel from stations around the country. I was told that was in it. I've never been able to verify
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Please find it and send it to me when you do.
I've looked. Oh, believe me, Regina, I have looked because I want to get it and then burn it. But I was all of 20. I might have turned 22 by then.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was very young.
Oh my goodness, Susan. I totally enjoy this. I really appreciate it. My Let's Talk family, as you see on the bottom of the screen, has been scrolling for a while, is Susan's email and her website. Please, if you are in the industry of speaking, and that's the majority of the world,
we're all in the industry of speaking.
I mean, I'm gonna have to give her a call myself as a motivational speaker, because anything that can help you do your craft and get your point across and be as most effective as you can and be able to put them seeds into people is well worth it. So please reach out to her. As you see, she is amazing. She's funny. She knows what she's talking about. She has 40 years of training in this, so you can't go wrong. So before we leave out today, you have any final words for us today?
How much I've enjoyed it. I love how you and I are on exactly the same page when it comes to empowerment and authenticity, and how it's a message that just needs to not only be spread but repeated. I thought that new generations of women would automatically have it. No, Regina, they don't. That surprised me. So we need to keep at this.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And that's what we're going to do. So, but until next time, let's talk 1943, my family. I love you. Thank you for joining us. And if you need to display your service, product, or what you do, I am here for you. This is my way of giving back to the community by having these shows and helping you display what you have so other people could be blessed into your services. So just let me know anytime. So until next time, God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.